Why have you brought us here?
All of you are my ultimate weapon.
Yo. Designed for disaster, from the mind of the master. Block thicker than encyclopedias with unlimited chapters. Face like I play poker, so you get no hits at a table.
What is going on, everybody? This is your friendly neighborhood coach, and this is the next episode of The Locker Room. Listen, y'all, I'm here, Cleveland born, Cleveland bred boy. We're going to talk Cleveland sports. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns coaching search. Who have they been talking to? Who are they actually considering? Is there a dark horse in the midst? All right. We're going to talk about Mike Tomlin stepping down from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not, shedding a tear over it, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. Harbaugh to the Giants. Who would have ever thought that? And we're going to get into a couple of picks of the Browns draft that I think the direction that they should go in. Then we're going to go into the college football playoff. We know that Indiana and Miami are going to lock it up. We're going to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes transfer portal. And we discovered that Dante Moore is going back to Oregon. Then we'll switch over to the Cavs. Jalen Tyson went berserk last night. Jalen Tyson went for 39 points versus the 76ers. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Is Kenny Atkinson holding these young guys back? We need to examine that a little bit. Is he leaning on these veterans who are not giving the effort so much instead of leaning on these young kids? We're going to talk about that. Is there going to be a moves on the roster? Okay. And then finally, my coach's rant will be about Lynn Jones of the Jacksonville Free Press and the backlash that she got at a press conference. So let's get this thing started. Listen, if you have not subscribed to The Locker Room, I don't know what's going on right now. I need you to go to YouTube and hit The Locker Room .34 and go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment. All right. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people when it comes to The Locker Room. And I also want to say that I am a proud member of 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast. You can also get that on YouTube and go to 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast. All right. And we get into that. We talk a whole lot about Cleveland sports. My man, L Train, and the captain, Terrence Austin. So if you guys have not subscribed to The Locker Room or 3 The Hard Way, I don't know what y'all waiting on. Go ahead and get it done. So if you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe right now. Okay. All right. Let's get into this. The Cleveland Browns and their coaching search. All right. So we know that Kevin Stefanski was relieved of his duties. There were interviews that have been taking place. They interviewed Tommy Rees, who was the offensive coordinator. They interviewed Jim Schwartz, who was the defensive coordinator. But there are also some other candidates that have been interviewed. And let me pull this up. And these candidates have been interviewed. And I'm going to give you my opinion on these coaching candidates. All right. So this is from Dogs by Nature. Shout out to Dogs by Nature. So we're going to cross Jim Harbaugh off the list. Harbaugh is now head coach of the New York Giants. We'll talk about that real quick. He accepted the job. I believe he accepted the job because of Jackson Dart, because there's really not a whole lot of rebuilding that needs to be done in New York. Malik Neighbors will be back next year. They have a pretty decent defense. He also took Todd Monken with him. So on this list, it says Todd Monken interviewed, but he went with Jim Harbaugh. So you can take him off the list. Bengals OC Dan Pritchard has been interviewed. I don't want anything from Cincinnati, period. Let's just call me biased, whatever. I don't want anything from Cincinnati. And listen, why I have this second, let me talk about Mike Tomlin. He stepped down from being the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wasn't fired. He stepped down. Okay. Now, for those that want the Browns to go after Mike Tomlin, I need y'all to understand something. Number one, I think he's so entrenched in Steeler pride, he'd never go to Cleveland. Number two, because he's still under contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, you would have to trade for Mike Tomlin. We're not doing that. And I also believe that Coach Tomlin has the right to take a year off. He's been with the organization for 19 years. Like I said, I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, can't stand the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I am a Mike Tomlin fan because I love leaders of men. And so that's exactly what he was. And I think what you're going to get, and I'll talk about this later on, is you got to get a suitable replacement for him. You got to think the Steelers have had 3 coaches in 50 years, okay? So you have to find someone that's going to bring that same type of fire, that same type of passion, that same type of accountability to the Steelers organization. And so shout out to Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great coach. I think if he decides to land somewhere, it's going to be on him. So, but am I saddened that the Pittsburgh Steelers got to go find another coach? No, I'm not sad at all that they got to go find another coach. But shout out to Mike Tomlin. Great career in Pittsburgh. Wish nothing but the best for him. Browns OC Tommy Rees was interviewed. Here's my thing with Tommy Rees. I'm just not sold on Tommy Rees because of the Stefanski offense that was run. I'm just not sold on him. Jim Schwartz, I like Jim Schwartz. I know the Browns want to keep Jim Schwartz in the building because he's had the number 2 ranked defense in the NFL, and you don't want to rock that boat. Here's my problem with that, guys. Any self-respecting head coach that comes in there, you're telling him, we're giving you your defensive coordinator. A lot of coaches like to come in and pick their own people. Now, the only way that I believe that the Browns can keep Jim Schwartz there is by making him head coach. I could be completely wrong, but I think that's the route that they're going to go. I know they're doing all these other interviews, but I think that's the route that they're going to go is with Jim Schwartz. All right. Aiden Dirt was interviewed. I heard a lot about him. Seahawks DC. I don't think that the Browns are going to hire a DC unless it's Jim Schwartz. I think they're going to they're looking for offensive guys. They're looking for guys to change this offense around to make Shedeur a top level quarterback. So I don't think you're going to get a DC. That's just my opinion, okay? Former head coach Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is intriguing because on his best day, when he took Tua Tagovailoa and he turned him into a quarterback for a couple years that was top-notch. He does have an innovative mind. My issue with Mike McDaniel is I don't think that he has the strength to run this football team. I just don't. I don't think he doesn't seem to be a leader of men to me. Not like a Mike Tomlin. Tomlin was a leader of men. Okay. And so in this battle, you have to have a leader of men. Okay. Jesse Minter, I'll continue. Jesse Minter, Grant Udinski, which I've heard a lot about. Chris Shula, that name always comes up, Shula. But the one I've heard is Nate, Shieldhouse. I've heard a lot about this guy. Don't dismiss this guy. He is the Rams pass game coordinator. I've heard so much about him. He might be the sleeper, okay? He just might be the sleeper. So those are some of the candidates that you have, okay? Udinski is an offensive guy, absolutely. But I believe that Jim Schwartz is going to be that guy. My man, Terrence Austin, T-Money, welcome in, man. He said, if not him, Jim Schwartz, based on his familiarity with the organization. I tend to agree with that. I also look at it like this, is that anyone that the Browns brass hires, I truly believe is someone that they need to be able to control. So that's why I'm kind of iffy with some of these coaches. Like I said, Udinski, I heard a lot about of. Shieldhouse, I heard a lot about. But I, if you twist my arm today, all right, locker room fans, I lean toward Jim Schwartz. I think you can find an offensive coordinator anywhere. Somebody who's going to be innovative. I think you can find them just about anywhere. I could be wrong, but I just truly believe that you can find them anywhere. But what Jim Schwartz has done with this defense, I think you give him an opportunity, and this would be Jim Schwartz's last opportunity. I think you give him an opportunity to turn it around, and then you focus on bringing in your offensive coordinator. Do I think they retain Tommy Rees? No. I think they let Tommy Rees walk. I think if it becomes a decision between Tommy Rees and Jim Schwartz, I think they're going to choose Schwartz. I think that the Browns, and of course, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns, so they could go out and get hamburgers and French fries and say that they're going to lead the next wave of Cleveland Browns. Don't know. But I think they're going to let Tommy Rees walk, and I think they can replace him with someone who can be extraordinarily innovative. Now, if they don't and they keep Tommy Rees in the building, they're going to ask Tommy Rees to turn this offense into some form of a juggernaut. And here's the thing, everybody. This is what I need people to understand. The Browns offense does not have to be the second coming of the Joe Montana 49ers offense. It doesn't have to be the Rams when they were in the Dome, the greatest show on turf. It doesn't have to be that. All the Cleveland Browns offense has to be is serviceable. 20 to 24 points a game with this defense, they can win. Now, are there a lot of holes on this team right now? Offensively, absolutely. And we're going to get into the draft in a moment, okay? Because there's a couple guys that I think that can help out in the draft. The Browns have the number 6 pick, the number 24th pick. They have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 3 5th rounds, a 6th and a 7th. I don't think they'll use the 7th. I do think Andrew Berry is wise enough. He'll package something. He's going to make a deal somewhere. But there's a couple guys that I do have in mind. I've heard a lot of folks talk about Maioga, the left tackle for Miami. This dude is an absolute beast. He is a mauler. I've watched him. I've watched film on him. He is a mauler. Here is my problem. I am not going to give up the number 6 pick for an offensive lineman. I just would not do it. I'm not going to give up the number 6 pick for an offensive lineman. Not unless that offensive lineman has the potential to be the next Anthony Munoz. You know, I'm not giving up the 6th pick for that. And don't get me wrong, that kid in Miami, he is a mauler. He's an absolute mauler. But I think you can get more quality or more quantity than, quality and quantity. Okay. And Andrew Berry has been known to trade down. Now, I don't think he's going to trade down this time. I think he's going to go ahead and make a pick because the Browns are struggling at wide receiver. They're also struggling at offensive line. Those are the two main needs that the Cleveland Browns have to address during this upcoming draft. So first things first is you got to pick the coach. I think they're going through the process. I also believe that I think Jim Schwartz is the leading candidate. I think they're going to go with Schwartz because Schwartz has been in the building. Schwartz knows. Schwartz will create a culture. And that's the problem with the Browns right now is there is no culture. Stefanski did not create a culture. I don't care what anybody else says about the offense. I know about that and all that other stuff. But I truly believe that Kevin Stefanski's biggest fault was that he did not create a culture. He didn't create a culture of winning. He did not create a culture of accountability. Now, we don't know what went inside Berea. He may have had his hands cuffed. We don't know, okay? But all we can go by is what we have visually seen. And what we have seen is we've seen a head coach who I felt like did not have control and did not hold his players accountable, didn't hold his coaches accountable. Because there's no reason that Bubba Ventrone should have been around. He didn't hold his coaches accountable, okay? And like Harbaugh did with Monken, Harbaugh told the Ravens organization they wanted him to fire Todd Monken. He said he wasn't doing it, so they let him go, okay? Sometimes you got to stand 10 toes down, and he did, all right? So that's what I believe is going to happen. What we got here, T says, if Brian Flores doesn't get snatched up, we need to go hard for him as well. Here's the deal, Cap, when it comes to Brian Flores. The only reason that I think the Browns are not going to interview Brian Flores, and of course there's the Rooney Rule, so they have to interview a minority candidate. They'll do that by smoke and mirrors. But the reason I think that they won't interview, where they won't hire Brian Flores, is because Brian Flores is a DC, that's one. Number two, he runs a 3-4 defense. That's putting Myles Garrett basically inside. Myles Garrett is not going to play in a 3-4 defense. That's what I think is a disqualifying thing for him. Now, if Flores switches up and goes into that 4-3, then I would say, then why would you grab Flores if you already have Jim Schwartz in the house? So I think that's going to mess him up. Now, where do I think Brian Flores is going to land? I heard this on the Pat McAfee show. No, it wasn't Pat McAfee. I'm sorry. It was the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Brian Flores, to me, is a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear it. But I think he is an absolute perfect fit for Steeler Nation. I really believe that, because it fits Brian Flores' mold. It fits him. So I can see him in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a fit. Cap is saying Baltimore. I think which sounds crazy, is I think Stefanski's going to end up in Baltimore. I think Kevin Stefanski is going to end up in Baltimore. I think they're going to interview him because they want an offensive-minded coach. And I think, and of course, because the Ravens always want to stick it to the Browns, I could see Kevin Stefanski in Baltimore. Okay? But I see Brian Flores definitely. I could see him in Pittsburgh. All right? Let's get to the draft here. So, like I said, the Browns have the number 6 and number 24 pick. I do not believe that the Browns or any team should draft an offensive lineman in the first round. I just don't. Not unless they are a surefire potential Hall of Famer or Orlando Pace, like that. I would not draft an offensive lineman high. Now, the two that I do believe that the Browns will go after is Carnell Tate of The Ohio State University, and with the 24th pick, Caden Proctor, the left tackle out of Alabama. Now, I'm not really enamored with Alabama linemen because of Jedrick Wills. Jedrick Wills soured me so bad when it comes to Alabama linemen. And Jedrick Wills was playing when Nick Saban was the coach. So I'm a little apprehensive if it is Caden Proctor, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt. So let's look at Caden Proctor and Carnell Tate, shall we? We're going to look at for a minute here. Let's look at Caden Proctor, and I will talk you guys through this a little bit. So Caden Proctor, left tackle for Alabama. Look at some of his highlights here. Washing the defensive lineman down so the quarterback can get out. Love this hand placement in that point, pointing out who he has. washing down, powerful young man. Okay. My only critique with Kadyn Proctor is his foot movement. I'm a little apprehensive on his kick step. He's a little high, center of gravity is pretty good. I see the power in him. I see the nastiness in him. Okay. But I want my linemen, I love my linemen to finish. I want them to finish at any given time. I want them to finish their block. He's got the skill to get out. You can see that. Okay. It's just, like I said, the kick step. But once he comes to the NFL, a good offensive line coach is going to be able to deal with those little things. And those are minor things to me. I'm not, I'm being a bit nitpicky because at this point, you have to have a left tackle that's going to be your left tackle for the next 10 years. Okay. Like Joe Thomas. So, like I said, he's a mauler. I like the way he moves. Like I said, nitpicky. I would literally work on his kick step. Okay. So that's Kadyn Proctor. I think the Browns could get him at 24. Then there is Carnell Tate, a wide receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And let's go Carnell Tate. And I'm going to let this play for a minute. So we can literally see some of the routes that Carnell Tate runs. I'm trying to get my credits because I want to give a shout out to who did this. I'll give it to you in a second here. Here we go.
Down just because
Shout
these
out
guys
to the
aren't drafted yet. Don't want to
tragedies.
go too much into detail, but really, really good receiver. I'll give my notes. At the end of this video, we'll watch it real quick. It's gonna be at the bottom of the screen. The way he sinks his hips on this route is really, really good. This is a pro route right there. Like, he honestly runs it better than you can look at Jeremiah Smith, who's running the mirror route, at the top of the screen. Doesn't get as low as Carnell Tate. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is a really, really good receiver. But, these guys are running the same route. Tate runs it better, in my opinion, right there. Catches the ball out the air, gets upfield to get some extra yards. Really, really good receiver, man. He's very, very polished. I think only 20 years old right now. 6'3", good frame. Probably needs to add some weight, but really, really good player. Now we got him in the slot. Ohio State, they're using the slot a decent bit. So he's played in the slot. He's played in outside, that X position, that Z position, played a little bit of H. So he's been kind of all over the field. Now right here, they're running like a Tampa 2 look, getting hands on everybody. These guys are actually, I think they're running, looks like they're running the Tampa 2, but I guess nobody in the flat, so these guys are just, dropping back, making it look like quarters. This guy's got this deep third right here. Won't really call it deep third, but these two safeties are split super, super wide, making this kind of a cover 2 look. This guy's got to run down the middle of the field with Carnell Tate. He puts his hands up as soon as he sees that because that's not going to happen. High points the ball right there. I know it's not a very, very good angle of it. High points the ball, makes an excellent catch. This is done really, really well by Tate. Coming off the ball, getting contact right here. That's okay. Technically illegal contact, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, but no one's ever going to call that. Now, right here, this is just a touchdown. Now you just need a quarterback that's willing to throw this ball basically right to this referee, a little bit deep in the end zone. These safeties are deep. we got two verticals running at them. So these safeties are no man land. They got to guard, both receivers here, and you're just praying this guy can get back right there. But that's Cornell Tate, and that's probably just not going to happen with a star receiver like that.
So with Carnell Tate, here's what I love about Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate catches the ball with his hands, unlike Jerry Jeudy. Every catch that I've seen from Carnell Tate, he is caught with his hands. Okay? He doesn't let the ball get inside his body. He averaged about 17.5 yards per catch. Okay? Which means he can be a deep threat. But you also see the ability that he has to be able to break down, okay, and once again, shout out, break down his hips, get his body turned. He's catching the ball with his hands, okay? So don't get me wrong, Jaden Tyson. Tyson is a wide receiver at ASU. Out here in Arizona where I am. He is a fabulous receiver. Here's my issue with Tyson. My issue with Tyson is he's injury prone. He gets hurt a lot. Okay. And so I need my wide receiver to be durable. I think Carnell Tate missed a couple games this year. Okay. But he's been basically durable. And I can see the Browns taking the 6th pick and picking up Carnell Tate, and then taking the 24th pick, okay, and getting Caden Proctor out of Alabama. Okay. I'm not going into the rest of the draft because I think that's a crapshoot for the rest of the draft. I'm just looking at the number 6 and the number 24th pick. I think Andrew Berry can rebuild within the draft and also free agency. He has to be cunning. Got to understand that Andrew Berry has got to hit a home run twice in a row. So he hit one last year. He's got to hit another one this year. Okay? The Browns can be turned around, but it's got to be within the organization. You have to find the right offensive coordinator. You have to find the right head coach that's going to have the mentality of holding these guys accountable, getting in their faces when they need to, making them play hard. And when you look at what Jim Schwartz did, you look at the Browns defense toward the end of the season, them guys did not quit. They kept playing, they kept playing because of Myles Garrett, and they wanted Myles Garrett to get that record, but they kept playing. Carson Schlesinger will be the defensive rookie of the year. Myles Garrett should be defensive player of the year. Okay. If Junkins wouldn't have got hurt, he would definitely be considered for offensive rookie of the year. Harold Fannin Jr. is the next Antonio Gates, in my opinion. I know I'm putting that lofty on him, but I'm watching not Antonio Gates, but I'm watching Harold Fannin Jr., and I'm watching what he does. Harold Fannin Jr. is a mismatch because if you put a nickel corner on him, he's bigger. If you put a linebacker on him, he's faster. So he's a matchup nightmare. If you go zone, he's going to be that zone buster. Harold Fannin to me is the steal of the draft. I just believe that. And I'm not saying it because I'm a Browns fan. I'm saying it because the proof is in the pudding and what he has done. Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be a problem in the NFL as long as he stays healthy. A problem. Quinshon Junkins, a problem. Okay? Those two guys offensively are going to be a problem. So then you throw a Carnell Tate out there, Carnell Tate on one side, Jerry Jeudy on the other side, Isaiah Bond in the slot. Offensive lineman that'll be able to block and give Shedeur time. They could be a problem. They could be. Okay? So that's what I see in the Browns draft. I see them going with Proctor, and and Carnell Tate. Moving on, let's get into the college football playoffs. Man, Indiana and Miami are about to hook it up. They're going to hook it up. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going for Indiana. I think Fernando Mendoza is really putting his best foot forward. The last game against Ole Miss, he threw for 5 touchdowns and 177 yards. Okay, I think Miami's defense is stout. But I also think that Indiana's defense is just as stout. I think the key will be Curt Cignetti. I think Cignetti has this team believing that they can run through a brick wall. I really do. I think Coach Cignetti has really instilled in the Indiana Hoosiers program a sense of just confidence. And I just think that Miami is going to run up against a buzzsaw. And I believe that the Indiana Hoosiers is going to win the national championship. Now, having said that, it's not going to be a blowout, ladies and gentlemen. Miami's going to put their best foot forward. Miami's got some studs too. Carson Beck is a very good quarterback. Okay, he's a very, very good quarterback. And so I really see Miami. It's going to be a dogfight. But I think at the end of the day, the Indiana Hoosiers will win the national championship. My man T says, go Hoosiers, Big Ten love. Gonna be a banger. If Indiana wins, the NFL will come looking. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Dante Moore. And the reason I'm bringing Dante Moore up is because Dante Moore was right behind Fernando Mendoza. And, you know, of course, when the Browns were high enough to possibly draft a quarterback, they talked about Mendoza and they talked about Dante Moore. Well, Dante Moore very wisely decided to go back to Oregon. I think that is the best move for him because he did not show well in the college football playoff. I think that was the best move for that young man was to go back to Oregon. I truly believe that he's going to come out and be probably the second or third best quarterback in this upcoming in the 27 draft, because of course Arch Manning is coming out, Lenore Sellers is coming out, so I think he'll be in that ilk. If the Browns are not doing well at that time, they'll have a shot. I think that was a very, very smart move by Dante Moore to go back to Oregon. So, what are your thoughts on that? I really believe that it was a great move for that kid. Okay, so shout out to Dante Moore for making a smart move. Plus, with the NIL money, it's not like he's gonna be broke. I mean, he can hold off the NFL for one more year. I think if the NIL wasn't around, Dante Moore would go ahead and declare for the draft and probably end up being a second-round pick in the draft per his performance during the college football playoff. Okay. Transfer portal. Let's talk a little Ohio State, y'all. But before we talk Ohio State, let's take a break. Listen, I'm going to say this again. If you have not subscribed to The Locker Room, I want you to go to YouTube right now. I want you to type in The Locker Room with Coach Young or The Locker Room .34. And I want you to go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, share, because I'm just a Cleveland guy, born and raised Harvard Avenue, 189th Street. And I've been Cleveland all my life. Shout out to everybody in Cleveland. I know it's been a storm, winter storm there, man. I know it's been a lot of snow there. I hope everybody is safe. I hope your loved ones are safe. I've checked in on my loved ones. They're okay. Just going through that snow. I don't miss that snow at all, y'all. I don't. If I want to watch snow, I'll get on the internet and I'll look up north. I don't want to deal with no snow anymore. But shout out to everybody in C-Town. Shout out to everybody in Cleveland. I hope everybody is safe and everybody is well. But if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I'm telling y'all right now, ain't nowhere for y'all to go. Y'all at the house now. Okay, it's too much snow on the ground for y'all to go anywhere. So here's what y'all do. Go to y'all internet, type it in, The Locker Room with Coach Young or the lockerroom.34, and come and join me on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, which, by the way, is 1 o'clock in Cleveland. Okay, now I don't know where it is everywhere else, but we'll figure that out. You guys are smarter than I am. All right, but please go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment with the Locker Room. All right, I'm really trying to build this following, talking Cleveland sports, but I'm also going to bring in some national stuff too every once in a while. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to limit myself or put myself in a box, but I love talking Cleveland sports. All right, so the Locker Room .34 or the Locker Room with Coach Young on YouTube. All right, look forward to seeing you and confabbing with you. All right, let's talk transfer portal for the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's been a lot of movement when it comes to the transfer portal. And so I dove in a little bit this morning to see who's left Ohio State and who has come to Ohio State. For some reason, Alabama loves Ohio State because there's a couple guys that have come to Ohio State from Alabama. Now, this is bucknuts.com. Shout out to bucknuts.com. This is the Ohio State Buckeyes 2026 college football transfer portal prospects. Okay, so James Smith, defensive lineman, he's committed to Ohio State. He came from Bama. Quincy Porter left. He was a wide receiver. He is now at Notre Dame. Hunter Welching, 6'3", 250-pound tight end, left Northwestern and is now a Buckeye. Edge rusher from Alabama, Quai Rushaw, okay, is now a Buckeye. Here's a big signing, okay, because I remember Earl Little. Earl Little Jr. went to the Buckeyes. He left Florida State, okay. Shabola, which is a big loss to me. Shabola went to the University of Kentucky, okay. Terry Moore, safety, has committed to Ohio State from Duke, okay. So Lincoln Keyholes was a backup quarterback. He is now at Louisville, okay. So these are just some of the transfers that have come to Ohio State and that have left Ohio State. Here's my thing. Ohio State retools. There are young men who feel like they can get other opportunities going somewhere else. That's okay. Don't have a problem with that. But do I think the Buckeyes will still be in the mix in the Big Ten next year? Absolutely. To me, it's the Buckeyes and it is Indiana, with Michigan coming in third, because I think this will be a rebuilding year for that team up north. But they always play the Buckeyes tough, so I'm not counting them out. Right now, I think they have an issue when it comes to Underwood. They got to figure out, they've paid this young man so much NIL money. Is he worth the money? Is he not? I think they have to rebuild from, things that have taken place. I'm not going to get into that. But I don't, and it's not really saying that there are not other teams in the Big Ten. I just think your two juggernauts in the Big Ten right now is Indiana and Ohio State, with Michigan, possibly Oregon, okay, in there, all right? And so those are some of the kids that are coming in and that are coming out of Buckeye Nation. You'll probably see more moves. I know that Julian Sain is coming back. Jeremiah Smith is coming back. I don't think that was even a doubt. I know Ryan Day, he's like the Cleveland Browns. He's got to address the offensive line, because I think the offensive line was exposed in the college football playoff. I really think their offensive line was exposed. And so I think that Ryan Day is going to do what he needs to do to put a competent offensive line in front of Julian Sain. I think Julian Sain was also exposed in the college football playoff. However, he was a freshman. I think, after a certain point, I think I told a friend of mine, it's kind of like Major League Baseball. You get that phenom pitcher and he's throwing, and he's striking everybody out, the first time he goes around. Then the next time he comes around, people have a scouting report on him. So I think with Julian Sain, that's what happened. I think teams got a scouting report on him. Defenses started mixing some things up, putting pressure on that young quarterback. And I think that's what you got. So I think a year up under his belt, going as far as he has, and then I always believe you have to take a loss before you win. So I'm looking for Julian Sain to have a bounce back season next year. I'm looking for Jeremiah Smith to go absolutely bonkers because of the just ultimate disrespect, him not winning the Biletnikoff Award, being ninth in Heisman Trophy voting. I think Jeremiah Smith is just going to have a chip on his shoulder. And to me, Jeremiah Smith with a chip on his shoulder is dangerous for college football. Absolutely dangerous. So I'm looking forward to Ohio State next year. I think they're going to retool. But those are some of the things in the transfer portal. Like I said, I think there's a few guys from Alabama that have transferred over to Ohio State. I think that's the Caleb Downs effect. I really believe that. I really believe that that's the Caleb Downs effect because Caleb Downs, of course, played for the University of Alabama. And I think because they've seen the success of Caleb Downs, I think a lot of these Alabama guys are like, okay, I still want to stay in a D1 program. I still want to be, out there being on TV, national. Where can I go? Ohio State. Ohio State. Okay, very simple. All right, turning to the Cavaliers. Gee whiz. They played a home and home with the Philadelphia 76ers. They played the 76ers last night and beat them 114 to 112. They played them on Wednesday night, and they also they took care of Philadelphia. But what I want to talk about is Jalen Tyson. Okay. And I know I mispronounced his brother's name, and I apologize. It's Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from Arizona State, Jordan Tyson. But Jalen Tyson went supernova last night. Jalen Tyson had 39 points against the Philadelphia 76ers. And the more and more that I watch this young man, the more and more that I am impressed with what he does. He is a legitimate two-way player because not only did he score 39 with, I believe, 6 assists and 7 rebounds. Okay. I'm sorry. He had 6 assists and he was 7 of 8 from the 3-point line. Okay. Let me not misquote him. But watching him guard Tyrese Maxey, taking on Philadelphia's arguably best player, because I'm going to get into Joel Embiid in a minute. He did a fabulous job. I mean, Donovan Mitchell almost had a triple-double, but he had 13 points. Okay? It was Jalen Tyson. The 76ers had no answer for him. None. They were doubling Mobley. They were doubling Mitchell, which left Jalen one-on-one, and he was cooking. It wasn't the fact that he was just hitting a three-point shot. It was the fact he was getting to the cup, banged on Embiid. It was ridiculous watching this young man play. And I'm going to be honest, they kind of froze him out in the third quarter because Jalen Tyson should have had 50. He was rolling, y'all. He was absolutely rolling. And I'm so glad because Donovan Mitchell talks very highly of him, saying that he has put in the hard work and the hard work is paying off. Jalen Tyson is a problem. At 6'6", 6'7", with the ability to handle the ball, passing ability, rebounding ability, defensive ability, able to hit the corner shot that Isaac Okoro couldn't hit. It leads to my next point. Is Kenny Atkinson holding these young ones back? Because not only do you get contributions from Jalen Tyson, Naquan Tomlin was dunking on everybody last night. Okay. Craig Porter Jr. had 10 assists. Okay. Tyrese Proctor came off the bench and had 13. Okay. I feel like that they need to have more minutes. I believe that Tyson should be the permanent starter, even when Max Strus comes back. Now, I know people will say, well, you can't lose your starting position due to injury. Really? Why can't you? If the person who's starting ahead of you is more productive than you are, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would not have a problem with Jalen Tyson being the starting three. I would not have a problem with Tyrese Proctor getting more minutes. I wouldn't have a problem with Naquan Tomlin getting more minutes. Now, Naquan Tomlin is not the greatest shooter in the world, but he brings defensive aggressiveness, energy. He brings that. Okay. So I think I know Kenny is leaning toward the veterans, but I literally would let these young folks get some substantial burn. Cap says, I watched both games with the 76ers. I wish for consistency from the Cavs. Here's my thing. I think you're getting it, but I think Kenny is still experimenting. And at this point, you're halfway through the season. I think it's time to stop experimenting. Okay? I think it's time to go ahead and solidify what you're going to do. I think Jalen Tyson earned the position to be the three. Okay? I really do. I think you have to have a backup plan for Darius Garland. Darius was injured again. He hurt his other foot, not the foot that he had surgery on, but his other foot. You have to have a backup plan for Darius Garland. Although I think that Lonzo Ball was the backup, I think Lonzo Ball has shot himself out of the starting lineup, out of Cleveland. I think eventually that's what's going to happen. I think Craig Porter Jr. has shown enough to where you can let Lonzo Ball go. Because Craig Porter Jr. plays as hard defensively, shoots better. Okay? Like I said, he had 10 assists. Lonzo throws assists. But Craig Porter Jr. can score, where Lonzo Ball cannot. So there's going to be some moves that have to be made. And what I mean by that is Naquan Tomlin is on a two-way deal. After playing so many games, the Cavaliers either have to A, sign him to a veteran contract or a full-blown contract, or they have to throw him back into the G League. Naquan Tomlin is not a G Leaguer. He can play. So now you have to make a decision. Who are you going to get rid of? For me, it's Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. is not, as much as I love Larry Nance Jr., Larry Nance Jr. is a shell of himself. He can't help this team. Not physically. Maybe as a veteran leader, he could. But I think as a player, you can do better than Larry Nance Jr. If not, then it has to be Lonzo Ball. It has to be. Could the Cavs make moves? Yeah, I think if they do, it will be Lonzo Ball. It'll be Larry Nance, probably a draft pick. You got to make a move. Now, my nephew hit me up. Shout out to Brandon Roach. And I didn't get a chance to respond. He sent me a text message. And he said, Kuminga wants out of Golden State. Would you put a package together for Kuminga? I would put a package together for Kuminga. if I could. But right now, the way Jalen Tyson is playing, why would I do that? We need guard help. We need, we need, guard help. You got to be able to have something, a backup plan for Darius Garland. Because I'm not, health-wise, I'm just not a big fan of Darius Garland. He can't stay healthy. And that's because he's little. So, do I think Kenny Atkinson is holding these young boys back? Yes and no. And what I mean by that is this. I know he's a veteran-laden kind of coach. But if your young guys are playing harder than your veterans, let those young guys play. But I also think, and I said this on this show, I've said this on 3 the Hard Way, is I think Kenny Atkinson he's been practicing during the regular season. I think he just wants these guys to stay healthy. He wants to, and he talked about it last night after this game. He wants to get about to the 3rd or 4th seed. I said this, he doesn't care about winning the Eastern Conference. If it happens, it happens. But he doesn't care about winning the Eastern Conference. He wants to be healthy going into the playoffs. And he believes that this team can win in the playoffs as it's constructed. I think they can win, but I think they got to get Evan Mobley right. I think they got to figure out what Evan Mobley is and what he's going to do. And I think they're trying to make Evan Mobley this offensive juggernaut. And I've said it on several different videos before and live streams that I think his ceiling is where he is right now. I think the 18 points, the 12 rebounds, 9 to 12 rebounds, I think that's Evan Mobley. And to try to make him come out to be the second coming of Tim Duncan or Kevin Garnett, I just don't think that's in his DNA. I think he's great defensively, former Defensive Player of the Year. He had blocks last night. But if I need a bucket, a surefire bucket, before I throw to anybody else, of course, it's going to go to Donovan Mitchell. Then Darius Garland, if healthy. And then it has to be Jalen Tyson. Evan Mobley is my fourth option at this point because of what Jalen Tyson is doing. And think about this last night. Evan Mobley got the game-winning bucket, but Jalen Tyson created that bucket. And by him being a second-year player, most guys in that position would try to score or try to do something crazy or get rid of the ball fast. Jalen Tyson made a smart play. So kudos to Jalen Tyson. I hope he, gets comeback player or most improved player. Donovan Mitchell talked about it, and rightfully so. I just truly am proud of Jalen Tyson. I think the Cavs could turn the corner. They got to play OKC on Martin Luther King. That will be a litmus test. Whether they win or lose, I just want to see how they compete. If they compete well against the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're going to turn the corner. Okay? Whether they win or lose, I'm looking for competition. I'm looking to see, can they hang with OKC? Okay? All right, guys, last break here before we get into my coach's rant. Shout out Roman Grace. Roman Grace is also a proud sponsor of the Locker Room. Roman Grace has different apparel, different bags, jewelry, apparel for women. Excuse me. All you got to do is look up Roman Grace. Now, Roman Grace is a own product, and it has great clothing for moms, for women who can, who need to go out on the town. Like I said, jewelry, purses, you name it. So if you just look up Roman Grace, they also sell T-shirts and hats and things of that nature. And I always, I know the owner personally, and Roman Grace is the way that you go. And I give him a moniker before you shop any place. Shop Roman Grace. So Roman Grace is a proud sponsor of the Locker Room, and I appreciate the partnership that we have. So shop Roman Grace. Y'all have to excuse me, man. This stuff get dry. All right. Finally, my coach's rant. My coach's rant is Lynn Jones is a reporter for the Jacksonville Free Press. And she has been coming under a lot of backlash because she had an interview with the Jaguars head coach, and she gave glaring compliments to this gentleman after losing a playoff game. And she was absolutely bombarded with negativity. Jemele Hill, other reporters were just lambasting this woman. Now, to her credit, she didn't let that bother her. She went on and she was doing her thing. But I need to speak on this. We live in a world with so much negativity exists. And it is amazing that because of so much negativity that we point out and that we want to make known so much, whether it's in the sports world or whether it's in life in general, that we have a person who, God forbid, comes into a press conference and encourages the coach who just lost, receive backlash. Shame on all of you. Each and every one of you that came out and criticized this woman for doing something that may have been different, but it was encouraging. It's easy for people to point a finger or kick a man when he's down. It's a little bit harder to pick a man up. And so what Miss Jones did was she picked a man up who was down. And what did you clowns decide to do? You wanted to pile up on her. Shame on each and every one of you. Because sports, yes, is a win or lose type of thing. But you have to understand, in this society today, people's mental health is in danger. And so for Miss Jones to take a moment, and instead of asking him about cover 2, and why didn't you do this on 3rd down, and you should have kicked the field goal when you were in position, she encouraged this man who turned this franchise around to keep his head up and keep plugging away. Isn't that what we're supposed to do in society? Is to pick each other up? Isn't that what we're supposed to do when we see another man, another woman down, is to try to help them out of their situation? Or heck, how about just being able to give an encouraging word to someone who just might need it? Some of you media people make my stomach hurt. Because you think because you have a pen and a pad, you think because the Associated Press or whatever moniker you're on, New York Times, whatever it is, gives you carte blanche to say whatever you want about other people. But you have a woman, a black woman, who stood up and showed an attitude of gratitude to a man who was down at the time. Now, Jemele Hill has come back and apologized. I don't know about the other reporters. I don't know if they've done that. I did hear that the coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars was so appreciative of Miss Jones that he reached out to her and made her the exclusive reporter of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what favor does for you. That's what saying an encouraging word about somebody who's down will work for you. See, y'all need to understand that favor ain't always fair. And I know I'm on this platform and I shouldn't be talking like that right now, but I don't care. It's my platform. Like I said, you may not like what I'm saying, but you will listen. Favor ain't fair. And because that woman decided to stand up 10 toes down and give an encouraging word to a man who had just lost a playoff game and who was down, I absolutely, positively, without a shadow of a doubt, applaud her. And for the rest of you fools, just keep writing your negative articles and stand on the outside and hope that you can get an audience with somebody. But Miss Jones, Miss Lynn Jones, Auntie, bless you. Continue to do what you do. Continue to be a light in a dark place. I truly appreciate what you did. And I hope that there are other reporters that can take what you did and run with it. Because today's media is an absolute joke. It's an absolute mess. And they love it that way. But it's refreshing to see somebody say enough is enough and pick somebody up. Some of y'all out there need to continue to show kindness if you're not doing it. And take the example of Miss Lynn Jones. And that is my coach's rant. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I appreciate your time. We did our chats thanks to the Cap, T. Austin, coming on here, dropping a couple nuggets for me. Listen, like I said, I'm just trying to get out here. If you can like, comment, and share the locker room, it would truly be appreciated. All right, I got to get up the road. I will see you guys next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. And as I always say, love on somebody. Tell somebody you love them. Don't always assume that they know. Hey, y'all. Appreciate y'all stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the program. Listen, if you have not subscribed again to The Locker Room, go to YouTube and type in The Locker Room 134 and come on ahead and join me. Have a great week. I'll see you when I see you.